Hey everyone, Jessie here from My Life in Arts and Crafts, and today we're going to be doing a piecing project, and I'm starting with some Canson 90-pound watercolor cardstock because I'm going to make the background first. So I'm cutting it to 5.5 by 7.5 so that it's bigger than the front of the card that I'm going to be working with, and I'm making a 5 by 7 card. So I just have that cut down. And I'm also going to be using a piece of Neenah Solar White in the 110 pound. What am I doing? Got like a really long pause here. So I think I'm just getting everything ready. But I have a piece of Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock cut to, it's 7 by 10 so that I could fold it in the middle. So here I'm just using my clipboard, just a grubby clipboard that I have, and I'm going to use some delicate frog tape, and it's about 2 inches wide, so I like to rip it in the middle, rip it in half. So I'm just going to tape that down to my board, and then I'm going to be using some watercolors on there. So by taping it down to your board, you can move it around a little bit and get the colors to blend. Plus you can also pick it up and set it out of the way so that it's not right in your workspace. So I'm just kind of pushing this down, making sure that it's nice and smooth and flat, and I'll put that last piece of tape on. I'm not sure why I didn't speed this part up, but I didn't. So I've got that all taped down, and then I brought out some water brushes. I'm using a number 12 round brush, and then I want to say that this is about 3/4 of an inch wide, flat water brush. So I'm just going to use that flat water brush to get some water all over my paper. You could spray your paper if you wanted to. I just like to give it a wash of water. So I'm making sure that my brush is clean also. And I'm going to be using these brand new pearl colors from Ganzai Tombi, and I picked mine up from Ellen Hudson, and they're really pretty. They're kind of hard to open, but they're really pretty. They're kind of like the Starry Night, starry colors in the same kind of cardboard box, but it comes with a pink and a red, a yellow, a green, and a blue. Then it also comes with a white gold, and the gold is the only one that I'm not going to be using. So I just take a spray bottle and spray a little water into each of them. Now I'll give my paper a good wash of color, or a wash of water. Just get my paper thoroughly saturated so that my colors can kind of move around on there. And then I'll switch to my round brush. Give my paints a little stir, and then start kind of brushing them in there and dropping them down, smushing them. A couple of the colors didn't blend real well, so I did have to go back in and re-blend them. And I kind of wish there was a purple color. I know I can make purple, but I wish there was a purple color just to make it easier. So just going through all the colors, giving it kind of a rainbow. I think the green and the pink are definitely my favorites. I like the color of them because the green is kind of a spring green. So I got to blue, and then I went back through and I tried to blend the yellow and the red, kind of make an orange color, and then kind of move it around so it mixes. And I'm going to start back over with pink. I'm going to go pink and red. Trying to mix them, get a purple. And then go in with the red and finish that up. Excuse me. So I went back in with the red up in the corner and kind of move them around a little bit. And then I took my paper towel and I just went around the edges and took any chunks that were too much color or too much pooling and just kind of dab them off. And I like to tip my board to get the colors to blend a little more, give it more of a tie-dye effect. So I just kind of tipped it in all directions to get those colors to blend, and it was very satisfying to watch the color move across the paper. I think I had more fun just watching the colors move. So now I have all my pieces. I used my Cricut Explore to cut them out. So I've got cream for the bunny, pink for his nose and his toes, orange for the carrot, green for the tip of the carrot, the leaves, and then I used a yellow for the eyes, and I used some eyes from a different file because I like the eyes that I can add eyelashes to. So I'm just going around all the edges with some tea dye distress ink. I like to use one color to go around all the pieces if I can, just because it gives it some dimension, but it also kind of links all the pieces together so they all kind of match. And then I think I was pulling up the image on my computer as to what it actually looked like when it was done. So when I'm putting these pieces together, I will always have the JPEG open on my screen so that I can see how it goes together. And then I just went around all the pieces with my distress ink and the foam blender. And it really didn't take too long. I mean, this is sped up about 200%, but it really didn't take too long to go around all the pieces. And like I said, I did cut this out kind of too big, which is why I had to resize my card. Usually I make 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch cards, A2 size. And I didn't size this down. So it's a little bit bigger of a card, but that's okay. Sometimes it's nice to have the bigger cards. So I'll go around the toes. And I'm not being real careful. I mess up too. So one of these pieces I got little, there it is, I got a little too much, made like a straight line. So not too worried about it, because once it's put together, you're really not going to notice too much. And when you're working with the smaller pieces, you can always use your tweezers to hold it to make it easier on yourself. And this one I tried to be a little bit more careful around the toes so that I didn't get too much brown in one spot. So I'll go around the other toe. Oh, that piece right there is part of the face. So that's going to be the little muzzle. And then the one has a little bubble on it, which is going to be the bottom one, and then the one that looks like an 8 is the top piece. That's where I went in with my tweezers and used my tweezers to ink them all up. I like the tweezers that kind of hold it so you don't have to really pinch them together when you're inking it up. You can just let go. Now the only pieces I'm not going to ink up are the eyes. I'm going to keep the white parts and the pupil and the colored part from being inked. So I'm just spinning these little tiny toe pieces around so they can get ink on them. And one more little toe bit to do. And once I'm all done with that, I think I'm going to start on the eyes. Okay, So now all my pieces are inked up, and then I'm going to get my base piece. So the base piece is the one that cuts out in gray, and you're going to want to coat it in some kind of two-way glue pen. I use a close to my heart broad tip glue pen, or a zig two-way glue pen that's a broad tip, and you just cover the whole thing. This is going to make it easier in the long run to stick your pieces down, because if you're not sure, this will help you put them together without them being completely stuck, so you can pull them apart. So it's definitely saved a number of my pieces in the past. So just cover that whole thing, and then I'm going to let it sit to dry till it turns clear. So while it's doing that, I can start on another part of my project. So this is when I do the eyes. So I've got the white part, and for the white parts you want the corners to be facing outward for this set of eyes. These are from, I'm not sure exactly which file. I will have it linked below. It's just a file. I look at the eyes and I figure out which set of eyes I want to use. So I'm going to be using the yellow part, which is the iris, and it's yellow and cut out of a piece of Lawn Fawn watercolor 6x6 petite whatever pad. And I'm just going to use 3 to 4 colors of watercolor pencils to detail up my eyes. So I'm using a yellow, a sunflower yellow, and a light orange. Zoom in there for you. And you're just gonna make asterisks in the different colors. So it's kind of hard to see, but you're just making an asterisk in the eyeball. And then you're gonna go in with the next color and just kind of fill it in a little bit. You can either make another asterisk on top of it or just try to go in between the colors. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna blend this and nobody's gonna see this part. So once I've done the second color, then I'm going to go in with the third color, and I'm just kind of scribbling it out. You can see it's kind of a mess. Basically what you want to do is you want the center to have everything coming out from it in all your different colors. And you can go back and forth between the colors. And then I added some white at one point, but you just go through all of the colors that are close to the color that you've picked out, just giving it some texture. And then you're going to take the blender pen and you start pulling out the color to kind of blend them together. And mine's a little stained because I use it to do the black parts of my eyes also. So you're just pulling out all the colors to kind of let it have a, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's just to look realistic. So once you've got that done, you can then start assembling the eye pieces together. So you want that corner piece to be facing outward, and you're basically going to make your eyes look kind of cross-eyed, and you want it to be kind of looking up and be cross-eyed. So you put a little bit of glue and then push the piece down. You can always turn your piece over to make sure that your eye is positioned in the right spot. And then you do the same thing with the pupil part. And you just push that in the glue. And so it's going to look a little crazy right now, but that's fine. And you're going to push it down really well. And then use a white watercolor pencil. And I realized after I did this that I had done this wrong. I was like, what am I doing? You want to draw a 6. You don't want to draw crosses for the pupils. So I'm just scribbling it out with the blender pen. I'm gonna let that dry for a second, and then I'm gonna draw a 6. So one is gonna be a backward 6 and one is gonna be a normal 6. And that is how you're gonna do the shading for the center part of the eye. And then you're going to take a white gel pen and you're going to do a couple dots. I ended up going a little overboard with this because I didn't like the way that it looked. But you're going to do kind of a bigger dot and then a couple small dots. So, 2 little dots with a bigger dot. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Best thing about doing projects is it doesn't matter if you mess up. Nobody's gonna notice unless you tell them. So now all the pieces are ready to start assembling, and I'm just gonna let you watch me put them together. I decided after I put the carrot piece on that it needed more definition. So it's got little indents, how carrots kind of dip in. So I just took a couple colors of watercolor pencils and I just started scribbling in those little indents. I used a yellow, I used a white, I went in with a brown, and I just gave it lots of dimensions so that it looked more realistic. So it didn't look like such a flat piece. So you can see I'm going in with a darker color now. And you could do this with Copic markers, you could do this with your regular colored pencils, you could do it with just some inks. But I just went in with my watercolor pencils because that's what was on my desk. So now I'm gonna finish putting this guy together. glued the mouth on, I left that spot at the top where there was no glue so that I could slip the eyes kind of underneath of there and rest them in there. So now is when I'm gonna kind of slip them in there underneath the nose. And then when I go to apply adhesive, I'm only actually gonna put adhesive on the bottom part of it because it's gonna ooze up when I slide that in there. And then we'll do the same thing to the other one. Now when it comes to doing the eyelashes, you're going to want to start off first with a black colored watercolor pencil and go right around the edge of the eye, and then I take my blender pen and just trace that, and you can see that it really just makes it pop, kind of almost like an eyeliner. But that's just going to make it so they stand out so that I can put the eyelashes on. So then I'm going to take a 01 and an 03, and I think I grabbed an 05 also, but we're going to mainly use the 03 to trace around the edge of the eye, so right over top, really close to that white as possible, and then bring it in just a smidgen more. And then we're going to take the 1, and the eyelashes on the bottom part of the eye underneath that corner are going to come down, so they're going to curl downward. And you just want to do really short, light strokes. And then anything on the top part of the eye is going to come up. So I just kind of draw some flicks in and go up. And you could stop after just a couple, or you could go crazy like I tend to do when I do eyelashes. And eyelashes were really hard for me for a really long time, but I finally have gotten the hang of them. And so once I do all of the ones going up, I go back in and I do a slightly different angle just to make them look thicker. And sometimes I still go overboard, but that's the gist of it. I decided here that I didn't like the eyes, so I kind of added a little bit more white in them. And then I took a clear glitter brush and just went around the eye, not touching any of that gel pen because it will make it smear. And then I took a pink and I just drew a little line on his nose, and I did the same thing to his feet, just kind of went around with a pink watercolor pencil, just giving it a little bit of shading and dimension. And then I went in with the clear glitter pen on his nose again, and that's what he looks like. I think he came out pretty cute. I like him. So then I'm just gonna attach him to my card. On my card I used a little piece of skinny rose gold washi. I used a piece of springtime paper from last year and a green strip of paper that I covered with Nuvo mousse. And that's it. It's a pretty simple card. Took a long time, but I like the way it came out.